business looks like and all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to. So my name is Stephanie Cox, and I am down in Beaufort, South Carolina. I am a broker associate, and I work with EXP. We recently made the jump over to EXP about 30 days ago. I run a team of 8 agents. We have 4 admin staff, and we're a pretty high producing team. People are always like, what are your numbers? And I'm like, happy clients. That's just kind of how I operate my business. So it's a little bit differently, but a lot of my agents are pending 5 to 7 contracts a month. So it's running pretty well. Um, I focus my business heavily on the military market, and listings for me personally is just kind of where I am. My husband's prior military, he still works on the military base here. I'm licensed to teach real estate in South Carolina. I'm an ombudsman for the Real Estate Commission, and I'm one of 17 mediators in the state of South Carolina for the Real Estate Commission. So I'm pretty well versed in the whole real estate thing. So you guys bring me all the questions today because I hate public speaking.
No, we love this. And I think that the beauty of this is the connectivity and collaboration that we get from all of these faces being in one space. And I also believe that the more that we teach, the more we learn, right? And so the public speaking gets easier and easier the more that you put yourself into these spaces. And yesterday we were at the regional rally in Charlotte, and one of the things was do scary shit. It was do the things that kind of scare you and make you uncomfortable, because that's actually where you get the biggest opportunity to grow. So we are so happy to have you on, and we actually have Eric with us. He is on the train on the way back from the regional rally, and he's going to pop in with some of his knowledge as well. And we like for this to be question-based, guys. We like high interaction. This is not us talking at you. It's about collaborating. So I don't know if anybody wants to open with a question, or Stephanie or Eric, if you guys want to take it away, we would love for you guys to jump in.
Yeah, happy to. Eric, you want me to run first and you jump in whenever? Does that work for you?
Hey, you go ahead and run, Stephanie, and then I'll jump in.
Okay, cool. So I know today we're kind of talking about the buyer presentation. I think Angel and them, you guys had some questions about conversions and that kind of thing. I will tell you guys, one of my biggest struggle as an agent is nurturing a new buyer. I'm not great at nurturing. It's not fun. If you are buying 6 months out, I will forget about you. I'm going to be honest with you. That's my downfall. It's my weakness. And so what I've done, because I recognize the weaknesses, is created a really good way to harness in those buyers and keep the follow-up strong and keep that communication and let them know I'm there for them. One of the biggest things that we can start with today is going over getting into a buyer phone call consultation right away. Like, so you get a new lead, you get something, somebody calls you, they reach out, that's cool. Start that consultation immediately. You need to be in a position where you can take some notes. If you can't, jot them down on a piece of paper. I text myself all the time when I'm on the phone. It's just on speakerphone. I'm sending myself a text message back. But whatever you're doing, you have to data dump it, because you will forget. Most of the time when a buyer calls you, it's the most awkward time. And you're like, oh, okay, sure, I'm checking out of the grocery store, but let's talk, or if it's a new lead, sit down and call them, get them in front of you ASAP and go get them in a house. They want to see a house, go get them in a house right away. You will find out a lot of information when you go get them in that house, but you want to immediately connect with them. Revert to anything that they say, see if you can relate to it personally, is what I do. They're like, oh, well, we're moving because of military orders. And I'm like, great, that's so stressful. Been there, done that. Like, I'm putting that personal connection in there. Anybody can take them and show them a house. So they need to trust you off the get-go. If you can relate to where they live, to neighborhoods they want to be in, to family statuses, like, start some type of personal relationship with them, because then you're not just a real estate agent to them. Then you're a person. And when you become a person to them, they're connected, and they're not just going to go call a random agent on Zillow at that point, because they're invested in you. So as soon as you start that initial investment into them with your time, and you showing them that you genuinely care from that initial conversation, they will invest back in you immediately. And you're not going to have to worry about your buyers leaving all the time from you. Does that make sense? Anybody have questions on that? Sorry, I know it was more of like a statement. What I would tell you guys, if you don't already have a buyer guide, that's going to help you tremendously. If you have a buyer guide, whether you use it all the time or you don't, create one. We have one that we use for the team. I'm happy to send it over to Anna or Allison. I'm sure they'll pop it into an email to everybody or something like that. You need some type of reference point because you go scatterbrained. Somebody calls you and they're like, I have to be in a house in 30 days. And what do I do? And then I have 2 dogs and then also this and all of the things. And between talking about lenders and disclosing everything you have to based on your state and everything, you forget a bunch of stuff. And then you're backtracking at that point. So having that list that you operate out of, you're going to start having that muscle memory that you're going to build that retention of knowledge. And you will be able to ask those questions and basically remember it from memory if you're not already working with one. Having that and then going back in from your notes and everything, following back up and putting it into your CRM. So if you have the sheet, if you have a template on your phone, whatever it looks like I think Angel, you were mentioning going back in that CRM follow through, you have to time block in that instance to go back in and say, well, I talked to 5 buyers today. I need to stop and put them all in or whatever CRM you're using and be able to follow back up. Go put them on a drip. I operate a 3-3-3 rule. We do it for all new leads. We contact the person 3 times a day for 3 days for 3 weeks. For all of our buyers, we touch the base, whether they're a nurture lead, whether they are a cold lead, whatever it is, 3 times a day. And everybody's like, oh my God, you call them 3 times a day? No, I don't call them. Like I might call them once, leave a voicemail. I'm going to follow up in 2 hours with a text message that says, hey, Mr. Buyer, like, thank you for speaking with me. I just wanted to reiterate a couple of our key points of our conversation. Thanks so much. And then at the end of the night, I'll go on Flex or whatever MLS you guys use and automatically set up a search to go out later that night of, by the way, just based on what our conversation was, it seems like these houses could be a really good fit for you. And I'm making them jump on, I say making them, I'm asking them to go look at them. Well, my CRM is going to tell me what they looked at and how long they spent on it. So I'm immediately capturing everything that buyer needs right now. So my conversion rate is going to be 100%. Because I didn't waste any time. I wasn't allowing them to go search on Zillow and click the tour now button where I'm losing that buyer. I've touched base with them at 3 points in the day. They know they can text me. They know they can do everything. So you immediately have to capture them. If you're just like, yeah, great, let me call you back. They don't want to hear that. Sorry, you're going to have to just make it work. That's it. If you want to capture that buyer, immediately show them that you're invested. Immediately follow back up. If I get off the phone with somebody, I immediately send a text message almost instantly thanking them for their time. Does anybody have any systems that they use? Is anybody currently using a buyer guide where you're logging everything into? No, maybe. No, Ashley's like, no, everybody, no. Okay, well, I will send mine out. If you operate on a system like this, you're definitely going to have a higher capture rate when it comes to buyer leads. You don't have to use the 3-3-3 rule. I have a template for the 3-3-3 rule that I can send out to, again, to Anna or Allison. They'll email it to you guys to be able to capture all of that. Urgency needs to be at the highest priority of your list, and then truly listening to what they want. When you send them the link for listings later in the day, you 100% will know what they want because you're going to be looking at it. Or you tell them in the email, hey, screenshot what you like. If you love the kitchen but hate everything else about the house, like, let me know, because I'd love to know your kitchen style. Like we're going back to that personal touch in there. And even though these are phone conversations, they might be from afar. Like with us in the military community, I immediately, like, I send them a Zoom link or my Calendly link, and I'm like, schedule something with me right now. Like, here's my Zoom link, schedule this. When can I see your face? Because I want to be a real human being to them. And I'm telling you all, that personal interaction, whether it's on FaceTime, Zoom, whatever it is, they will 100% not leave you. Does anybody else operate with Calendly for buyers or anything?
I do. I have a question though.
Okay.
Can you help me conceptualize your buyer guide? Because I'm thinking of flat pieces of paper, but something you just said made me feel like you do not have flat pieces of paper. Can you expand on it?
Yeah. So I operate a little bit weird when it comes to that. I'm a big
What we
fan
want
of,
to hear, the weirder the
Yeah.
better.
yeah. So I'm a really big fan of texting myself. I know that sounds really weird, but I have templates and everything I say. Like if there's a new lead on Facebook, I'll just go to my own personal text messages and just copy paste like, hey, I see you're asking about school districts. Like, here's a link to the website. Like, that's how I capture them that way. But I have a template in my phone. Some people use notes. I guess notes would probably be more efficient. I'm not very great at using notes in the phone. So
Stephanie,
I
we're
don't.
gonna introduce you to a little app called Boards today, and it's gonna change your life, okay?
Okay,
So
well, see, this is
you
why
when
this
I
is
get
what
off
happening
this
for
call,
me.
and I'm gonna make your life a lot better. You're going to kiss my feet later on this afternoon. But keep
Okay, I
giving
love
me
it.
all
I'm
your
gonna
stuff.
get you a pedicure first, just in case. Okay, so I I operate on that. So I will literally just copy paste that and send this back to myself. And that's how I save my information. And then honestly, I really don't input the stuff myself. Sorry. I just will screenshot whatever I just sent myself and send it to either my TC or my director of operations or my assistant. And they'll input everything in there and they'll set up the things. But it only takes just a second to input everything yourself. But what I noticed, a lot of the struggle that I have with like newer agents or team members is empowering them to actually do this. It is so easy to just pick up the phone and take that buyer call. But where a lot of agents are failing is they are not following up. They are waiting too long in between that period where the buyer's expecting something from you, but then somebody calls because a home inspection was bad, and then there's termites, and then there's a water leak in another house, and then there's a listing appointment that you have to go on. And all of these things pop up in between. And then all of a sudden it's 3 days and this random buyer texts you back and they're like, hey, making sure you had the right email. And you're like, who are you? Because you didn't send that follow-up text message. You didn't do anything. And then what's really going to hurt your feelings is when you finally remember in 5 days to text them back or email them and they say, no worries, we're already working with somebody else. Thanks so much. And then you see that same person on Facebook later being like, look at me in my new house. And it's a $650,000 house that you lost out on because you didn't have the right systems in place. So that lag right there is what kills a lot of buyers. So that's why I implement the 3-3-3 rule for my team. So if you don't have something like that, then I'd love to help you get it set up for whatever works for your schedule, because it's crucial. Eric, do you guys use anything like that? Like, what's your follow-up system?
So our follow-up system is basically we jump on them immediately, because if we don't, we know, because I'm in a military town also. I'm primarily military, former military myself, so I know that PCS move and that timing that we have is so critical, because we only have a certain amount of time and we got to figure out who's going to be the leader in that. Is it the service member or is it the spouse that's leading this charge? Because if it's one or the other, we kind of tweak it to go far. But I love what you said about building the relationship with them. A lot of times what I will do is I actually go into, I know this is bad, guys, so I'm gonna let you guys know. I actually look everybody up on our forewarn app, everybody. So, and that forewarn app, and I look them up not for anything other than to get other relationships. Like, okay, I want to see what house and where you lived before. I want to see those different items that you're using, because the more information I have about them, I'll go on social media and I always do a deep dive on every buyer and seller that we interact with. Because the more I know how to interact with them. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. If I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, guess what? I see they're a fan of whatever the other team is. It's a conversation. I look how to make it sticky. How can I build a relationship? And it only takes a couple of clicks because all the information is right there at our fingertips. So I think that's one of the things that we as realtors are missing out on, that we teach everybody to do. And I also do that with my agent attraction pieces too, where we make it sticky. I want to know everything about that agent before I even talk to them. I want to know everything about that client before I talk to them, so that when I'm talking to them, I know exactly what to say. If I already have the answers to the test before I take the test, odds of me winning go tremendously. So that's kind of my secret sauce of how I interact. Am I frozen, guys? You guys look frozen to me.
We can hear you fine. You're
Yeah, we
just
can hear you fine.
a little spotty. You look like a little back roads.
Okay,
Back
so-
train, North Carolina.
Yeah, I know. So, but that is really my secret sauce of what I use. And then that's what we're also telling our agents to use also. Because the key really is to find out as much as possible about your clients in order to move forward. And this is an interactive session, right, Stephanie? Other people are
Yeah.
supposed to be talking, not just me, you, and Anna.
I mean, I'm always open to questions and brainstorming. I feel like conversion with buyers is one of the harder parts of the industry because
Yes.
they may not know what they want and you have 5,000 questions to ask. You're like, are you pre-approved? Are you working with another agent? What area do you want to be in? You know, what about this? Like, are we factoring in school districts? Like, how much do you want to spend a month? Like, just because you're pre-approved for 800,000 doesn't mean you want to spend 800,000. Like, have you bought a house before? With me, I'm over here like, have you utilized your VA entitlement before? Because that's going to add on additional fees. Like, are you 100% disabled? Because then we're not paying those fees. Like, so there's just so much that goes into that initial conversation. And I want to caution all of you guys when you're talking to these buyers, you do not need to know everything up front. You will scare the heck out of this buyer and they will go running for the woods. I really try to reinforce positive reinforcement with my buyers when I talk to them. I'm like, listen, guys, there is so many things that we can go over right now, but if I data dump you, you're going to run for the hills. It's just so important to know that I've got your back in this. I'm going to break everything down. I say Barney style. I'm going to break everything down Barney style for you guys. I'm going to keep you up to date on everything that we have. You're never going to be sitting back wondering what tomorrow looks like because I'm going to be so over communicative with you. We're going to be able to break it all down. And then the first touch that I have is I send them a text message and thank them. If they need stuff with, like if I need to introduce them to lenders, I immediately get that out. Because if you build these relationships with solid lenders as well, your lenders are going to stay in contact with them also and help you retain that buyer. When I send a buyer to my lender, I fully expect my lender to be like, you are working with a kick-ass agent. She's amazing. She's going to take great care of you. And if that lender is not saying that, that's the conversation with me and the lender, because that lender is going to reassure them I'm who they need to be working with also. And so set those expectations
Stephanie,
with
I
your
think
lender.
I think that's the key that you just said. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're
Can you
good.
hear me?
Go.
Okay, Stephanie. I wanted to go back to what you just said about the lender, because the lender is going to be the most important person in this transaction for you guys, because that's where the money comes from. And if you don't have a great lender relationship or have them get them to the lender as soon as possible, a lot of the agents, I know everyone jumps in the car, they go take them, but get them to the lender as soon as possible. If they're not pre-approved, I'm not taking them out. I'm just being honest, because I can't show you a $600,000 house and then we find out you're pre-approved for $300,000. I'll never sell you a home. So one of the things for us is just getting them to the lender ahead of time, just so they can get pre-approved. Everyone wants to look and go from there. But to me, time is the most important thing. And I don't want to waste their time. And I definitely don't want to waste my time when we're going about doing it. And I'm very hardcore on getting them approved beforehand because I know they're serious. And I wanted to tell one example. I have a listing right now, just went on the contract while I was down at the rally. And this buyer who went under the contract came to the house with 2 different agents. Same house, my listing, 2 different agents saw it. My sellers told me because they saw them on the camera and they said, oh, they're back again, but they were a different agent. Here's the twist. The person who wrote the offer, neither one of those 2 agents. Another agent wrote the offer who didn't even show the house. So that's why they have to have a level of commitment, because this is a prime example, and I'm glad we're talking about this right now, where this literally just happened. And then, of course, they said, hey, the buyers asked me, could you not let the other agents know that they wrote the offer? I said, hey, my representation is to the seller. I don't have anything to do with whatever you guys are doing. Send me over a contract and we can move forward from there. That's why I want to get them pre-approved. I want to make sure they're committed to me, because these buyers will shop you if you don't get that level of commitment from them. Don't just acquiesce and be a rug for them. Make sure that you are holding them accountable, because they're going to hold you accountable. So it's got to be a win-win. This is a marriage, and it's a 50-50 relationship. They have to be loyal to me and do the things I need them to do in order to move forward. Because if not, this is a prime example of where that literally just happened. So now I'm under contract. Now, if the agent calls me and asks, hey, your house went under contract. I'll say it did. I'm not going to volunteer any information. And they probably will not ask, and I'm not going to disclose anything because guess what? I represent the seller.
Mhm.
Had nothing to do with whatever it was with the buyer. But I do think it's a really, if I was that buyer, one of those other two buyers agents who actually show the property, I would be extremely upset when I find
I think that's one of the big things is when you have that initial conversation, one thing that I tell my buyers when I'm just reassuring them that I'm going to be a great fit for them is I let them know up front that I'm going to spend a lot of time making sure that we find them the perfect place and that I just ask for that same level of commitment back. I personally don't push buyer's agencies super hard. I disclose everything. They know what the buyer's agency looks like. 9 out of 10 times they volunteer to sign it right away. We operate on my team, you get one free on me. So we'll go show you a house if you're not pre-approved, if we can have a detailed conversation. And it sounds like you a little bit know what you're talking about. If you know baseline credit scores, you know about your budget, like if you gauge it based on that conversation. But like I said, because we're so military heavy, if they're coming in, they're like an E6, E7, they're PCSing here, they've bought a house before. I'm like, I'm gonna go show you a house without a pre-approval. But I always say one free on me. I'll go show them because maybe I don't want to work with this buyer. I hate to say it, guys, but like that's one thing that you as a buyer's agent really need to know how to decipher are the buyers that are going to suck you completely dry of all of your time and energy and efforts. And you got to know when to cut them loose, right? Like if these buyers are hounding you 24/7, unrealistic expectations, they're taking all of your time, energy, and efforts. You need to shift your focus on that, maybe refer them out, you know what I mean? But that's one thing, especially as a new agent that I did, I was like, I need all the leads. Like, absolutely. I'm going to show you 97 different things. But the truth of the matter is the amount of time that I wasted on buyers that were truly never going to buy is sad because time is money, right? And so knowing when to like cut one dead rose so the whole bush will bloom is like a really big thing in my opinion. And having those upfront conversations, even when they're hard about, I'm going to work hard for you. I expect your commitment to me back in return is a big thing. And a lot of it comes from that initial buyer conversation that we're talking about right now. I would be happy to role play with anybody. Like if you want to call me back, like jump online on a Zoom, we can do like a role playing mastermind if you guys want with buyer consults. We can set something like that up, you know what I mean? Because it's not easy, but you have to control the conversation because you're in charge of where it goes. 100%. You have to steer it in the direction where you're going to be able to be in control of the whole transaction and keep your buyer with realistic expectations.
Stephanie, can you go back to, I think my problem is nurturing, or forgetting them. I'm like hot and heavy and I can go after it, but it's what you said. It's like, oh my God, I forgot I had this conversation with this girl that wants to buy in this one specific neighborhood and she's looking for a rental there. Like I just thought about it yesterday and then I forgot again. So I need to text her today, but I have a problem with, and I don't take too many leads. Like I will push them back and say like, I can't take any more right now, but it's the people that are in the nurture pipeline. And I feel like I just still kind of forget it. I mean, they're there in front of me, but what do you do for those that might be further out or, call me in 2-3 weeks? I mean, do you just set a task and make sure you call them or like, how does that, I'm sure you forgot people.
So you said the nurture lead and one of my admins are sitting next to me. She starts laughing because she knows that I'm like awful at this. Like it's really one of my weaknesses, but some of the ways that I found to do is, like I said, texting myself. That sounds so crazy. I'm not in my CRM 24/7, but I am never far from my phone. I'm just sorry. That's just me. I'm never far from my phone. So if I have a lot of things that I need to circle back to at the end of the day, I just send myself a text message. And then at the end of the day, when I'm fixing to close shop for the day, I go check my own text messages to myself. And I say, because my phone keeps popping up like I have text messages. So right before I close the day out, I'm like, okay, what did I text myself today? Oh, circle back with this person. And then actually what I found to be the most beneficial is I send pre-selected emails out. So I will stop right then and there. I will send an email because you can predate an email, right? I'll set up an email, some people like to use drips and stuff. I make mine, especially if it's a nurture lead, a little bit more personal. I don't just stick them on a drip and let it roll. I set an email for 5 days or however long we're going to follow back up and say, hey, like the day before, I can't wait for our conversation tomorrow at whatever time. I'm so excited, blah, blah, blah. And I will just CC myself on that email. And that email will be set to go out the day before. So when I wake up the day of, or the day before, I got a new email from myself in my email saying how excited I was to talk to this person. And then when I use Gmail, so when I send an email in Gmail that has a date in it, my email pops up and is like, would you like to put this on your calendar? And I'm like, sure would. So I put it on there also. So my phone reminds me that morning as well. Or just go on and pre-send those emails, because you can change them at any time if their timeline changes. But same thing with like review emails and utility emails and all that stuff. The moment that I make that initial contact or write that contract, those emails are pre-selected to go out. So they're out of sight, out of mind. And I just blind carbon copy myself on every single one. So I'm being reminded when they come back through, and it's worked for me. Maybe there's a better way. I'd love to hear it, but I always check my email and I always check my text messages. And so that way, but I am not always in my CRM. So that's what I do.
Can I
Anna?
ask a question? Yeah. I know sometimes this doesn't always apply because buyers may not be local, but in the fact that we know that buyers are local, specifically, I'm heavy sphere. So a lot of times it's people that I already know, like I'm not going to do the thing, Eric, I don't have to go forewarn them. Like they're my friend from whatever, and they want to go see a house, right? I need some really good tactical ways to probably just discipline myself to get them to my office or get them to coffee before, because I'm very guilty of like, I know you, so I'm not worried about, are you gonna axe murder me at this listing, right? So like, I'm like, I'll just go open the door. And then I keep that really just like no pressure, I know you relationship going. And I think sometimes we do our sphere a disservice because they actually like, they're calling you not because you're your friend, they're calling you because they're their friend and also a known professional in the marketplace. And I'm just curious, do you guys have, I know both of you have heavy spheres, how do you handle kind of taking a warmer contact and getting them into a professional setting and really starting the process and not just being that reactive, like, hey, you called me about this listing, let's just go see it? Because I do that all the time. And then I'm providing, I think, less than service for my sphere because I'm treating them like, you know, my buddy and not a professional contact. So just curious if you guys have any thoughts on that.
So, and I'll start off on this. For me, I'm kind of guilty of that too, Anna. I will want to go into this conversation about, friends catching up on the family first, but then instantly I turn that right into when I know they're calling me for something specific. I instantly turn right into it and say, hey, look, we can catch up about the family, but I know you called me, let's talk about this house really quick, or let's talk about, listing your home. And I just go right into it, but I transition very easily between the two. So it's my conversations on that personal sphere and to business, it's a seamless transition. We go right into the business piece. And usually because I transition into the business piece really quickly and get them, paperwork, what we need to do, wherever we're leading it, then I transition back to the personal side almost right after, we're having coffee or we're setting a date for lunch right after. So I just kind of like smoothly transition into it, have the conversation with them about whatever we're doing. And then because I know they want to go to coffee, or I know they want to have lunch, or they want to do something of that nature. But then for me, the barrier is I also have my TC. Once I show them and I get them under contract and all that, and I know, Stephanie, you said you have a lot of the emails go out. The TC does everything for me. I'm just copied on everything, but I separate myself a lot of times from my sphere because whenever we go into contract, I wanted to stay professional. So I kind of remove myself a little more. And the TC, because she's licensed, so she's doing all the negotiations. She's doing all of that, but she's sending out the communications via text or email. I will even see a good friend of mine call me about a transaction we're in, and I will not answer it on purpose for a couple hours so that they know, and then I'll have the TC call because I like to keep it a little separate because I don't want to get pulled in and take the TC role away from her because that's what I'm paying her for. I don't know if that makes kind of sense, but it helps me stay kind of balanced because if not, once I get pulled into something just because of my deep personality, I'm going to dive too deep into it and I'm going to be down the rabbit hole and distracted from everything else I need to do.
Yeah, no,
So-
that makes perfect sense. And I think, yeah, I think when you get in transaction, it's good. I'm just really guilty. Like I had a friend a couple weeks ago call, they saw a listing of ours, they wanted to see it. You know, you set the showing up and that was that, right? And I realized like, well, now I don't really know. Like, do you really want to move? Was it just that house? Because I didn't take control of the process and require that,
beginning.
let's go sit down, let's actually talk about what you want to do. And I think that there's benefits to both. And I think how you prospect has a lot to do with how you handle these buyer consultations. I know when you've got colder leads coming off the streets, you're more inclined to try to get them under control earlier. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm weaker with that, because I always just knew who I was, showing property to, and knew that they already were in queue as far as knowing, liking, and trusting me. So I just didn't know if you guys had any really good ways to take the pressure off, but to say, hey, I'm happy to show you this house. Like, it'll be great to catch up. But let's go sit down at the office for 10 minutes afterwards. I just kind of want to catch up. I want to run down, or if you do it at the kitchen table, at the house that you're showing, like, what are those conversations with your closer, warmer contacts look like when they call you kind of out of the blue to go see a property? How do you get a formal buyer appointment out of that without botching the whole thing?
Yeah, mine's 100% at the house we're showing. If they're a good friend of mine, I'm 100% gonna go show them their house. Like I said, we operate on you get one free on me. And to be honest with you, Anna, like I would challenge you and say you're probably not providing less of a service. It might seem that way because it's not so official, but maybe they're not really sure if they're ready to move. Like, I kind of like this house and I kind of want to move. But when you take them to see that initial house, they walk in, they say, yeah, we're moving. Definitely. Like, this isn't the house for me, but I'm realizing this is more of the house for me than the one that I live in. So for sure we're moving. And I'm going to go take them to see that house because 9 out of 10 times they got a house to sell too. So if you don't take that moment to take your friends to go see a potential house, you could be missing out on 2 sales for that. But I do think having a guideline when you're there, be like, all right, guys, you called, you wanted to see it, but tell me a little bit more about why we're in this house today. And those are just the things that I would physically say to them. Like, tell me a little bit more. Are you feeling like you've outgrown your house? Are you not liking where you're living anymore? Tired of paying rent? Like, I need a little bit more reason and motivation while we're here today. And if they're like, oh, I was just curious, like, okay, well then fine. I'm done with you at that point. You know what I mean? Then the next time I talk to you, it's going to be a sit down for coffee before, but you're going to learn a whole lot from just walking them through that first house. Cause they're going to be like, see, I told you Sally Joe needs a bigger closet like this one. And then you're making all these mental notes like, okay, they want to move because the kids are getting bigger, or they want to move because the kids are going to high school. We don't need to be by the elementary school. Or so I would always go take that initial listing or initial walk or whatever you want to call it, because I'm going to learn everything I need to know. And my biggest thing is when you're working with these buyers and you're converting them and you're doing all this, don't be the one, like, you have one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. Listen more than you talk in this instant, and ask a lot of questions, because you will learn so much. Like, asking the right questions are a huge thing. You'll learn so much just from those initial walks.
Something just popped in my head. And when we're at, an open house or whatever it is, a lot of people come in and they're like, oh, I have someone I'm working with. We just didn't want to call them yet. How many times do we get people that call in and be like, oh, can you show me this house? I didn't want to call my agent yet. And you're like, we called them CFAs, call your effing agent. All right. And so what I'm thinking is, why aren't we having the conversation like what you said, Anna? Why aren't we calling our clients going, hey, I just want to know, I want to let you know that I'm an advocate for you in this market. If there's any home that pops up on the market, you're like, you know what, that's interesting. Give me a call. I will literally not give you any pressure, because that's what they hate. They're like, we don't want to feel pressure. If we call our agent, then they're going to feel like, oh, they want to buy, and I'm going to keep chasing them, and people don't want to feel like they're pressured into something. So I wonder if we start having more of the conversation of, hey, I want to be here for you. If you want anything on your house, if you're thinking about opening a HELOC, if you guys want to do any projects, just know I'm never going to pressure you. There's always going to be someone here to advocate for you. If there's like a one-off house that's a unicorn and you want to go take a look, give me a call and we'll leave it at that. Like, to take the pressure off them, because so many times I hear like, we just didn't want to call them yet. Well, think about how many, past clients of ours might be going to these houses going, I didn't want to call her yet.
Mhm.
And we don't know because they feel pressure. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just random,
Great
but it
point.
popped in my
That's a
head.
great point. And
That's a great point.
we had this week two and we know like two dash agents, right, that got calls from and scheduled showings on one of our listings that we had already dispersed out into our team for sign calls, right? So like even in that instance, like the hot, like quick, I want to go see this, two sets of buyers literally like had reached out to the listing agent at the same time as clicking on a Zillow button, because it's just like, how can I get to someone first? And I think that goes back to that urgency, Stephanie. But if you can combine the urgency, I think with the scripting of what Ashley just gave, like game over, right? Because you've provided them the fast service, but then you've taken the pressure off. And I think that might be probably the key to getting some of these rolling. Just quickly, because things are going to change as we go into July. The one freebie, right? Is that, Stephanie, going to be like, I'll just sign one day agency with you? I'll sign agent or property specific agency with you. That's going to be your one freebie. How do you guys feel like going into July with required documentation to show property? How is that going to shift what you're already doing?
Yeah. I haven't figured that one out yet.
That's fine.
I'm over here just like, we're going to pivot, right? Real estate changes daily. I was literally on an admin call this morning and I said, like, real estate changes daily. We have to be picking up on this. So I don't know what that's going to look like for our team. We'll see. You know what I mean? I guess I don't know. It scares me a little bit, because we're all a little bit afraid of the unknown right now. But I think as long as we continue to educate and be in rooms like what we're in right now and learning and brainstorming from it, then I will mastermind some idea for my team, or I will get some tips and tricks from everybody plugged in on things like this to help me navigate those waters. So I think it's super important to be plugged in right now just to learn. But what I will say, Ashley, to what you said about, no pressure. I literally was on a buyer consult today. I had a military buyer from Guam. And I was like, hey, if you're just looking around and you see a house that you're genuinely just like, oh, I wish I could walk that. I was like, please just tell me and I'll go take videos of it. Sometimes I use the analogy like, well, you don't buy the first car you test drive, right? Like you're going to go test drive a few cars. Like you might not marry the first person you've ever dated, but sometimes they're like, well, I did. And I'm like, sorry. So like we have to learn. So I said, I always tell people like, I'd rather show you 10 houses so that when you found the right one, it's the right one. Like, I don't want them being like, well, like, I don't want to be under due diligence and you're calling me to be like, can we go see this other house? Cause I'm like, no, like, don't you know you have deposits down? You know what I mean? Like, so again, setting those realistic expectations, letting them know that we need to explore all of our options first. Cause when we commit, I really want them to feel comfortable in committing. Questions, comments, great thoughts? Anybody?
That was a great thought, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Oh, do you guys have office exclusive in Carolina?
I'm trying to figure it out for them.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you can sign like where we can, do it just office exclusive and, not put it on MLS and, just do office exclusive showings. And like most of the time what we do is we'll just like have an office exclusive open house basically and try to get everybody in at once and just kind of market it throughout our own brokerage. So, but yeah, there are forms and policies that we can operate that way out of. So maybe that's going to be super helpful when July rolls around, you know what I mean? And I think that's one thing. I was literally talking to my team yesterday and I said, I think we're going to see another big shift in people shifting brokerages come July, because a lot of things are going to be going office exclusive and the way that things are going to be disclosed. You're not going to want to work for a 10-person brokerage anymore, because if you do, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot from what I can foresee. So I think we're going to see another big shift again in the industry, with people wanting these larger brokerages for their protection and knowledge and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm preparing
I
for that
totally
as
agree
well.
with you on that one. I agree with you totally on that, Stephanie. I think the shift for the agents right now, because a lot of these folks are not going to be able to survive. Because if you're, you know, a 10-person brokerage, or even if you're a franchise, you know, you have these smaller franchises
Yeah.
that are going to end up having issues because you have a 100-person franchise, you know, office, or 150, you know, like all the Keller Williams in our area in the Triangle. The largest one right now is probably about 185 to 190 agents, and they have about 6 of them. And I think we'll see maybe some consolidation even for those, but as they get smaller, the listing pools become smaller too. And that office exclusive is only for their individual small office, where at EXP, we're going to have a decisive advantage, especially if we can get everyone to actually buy in to, especially North Carolina, our office exclusives. If we just, hey, 2 weeks prior to it hitting the live market, office exclusive, where we can show what the commissions are going to be internally, we could really set the market up. And a lot of folks are going to be missing those opportunities because they're not there. And I think it's going to be a great time for us to attract other agents who may want those same opportunities for us. I mean,
Not only that, but like, good luck beating me in a listing appointment. Like, hearing what you just said and conveying that to somebody, like, good luck winning a listing appointment. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to know this information to be able to share this information. So I encourage every person, it doesn't matter what brokerage you're at, it doesn't matter what company you work for, you need to know the policies, procedures, laws, stats, all of everything. Because, you know, we're talking about buyers today. So even at that, if I'm talking to a buyer and I'm notifying the buyer of, hey, I work for this big company and I have a whole bunch of office exclusive listings, so maybe I'm going to get you in there and we're not going to be in a 10-person bidding war. Your buyer needs to hear that too. So you really need to be plugged into your brokerage at a high level, and or your team or whatever you're doing. Because if not, you're just going to be like a little fish that fades away in the pond, especially come July. So plug in, and by everybody being here today, it's showing that you're already taking those steps. So good for you. Anybody else? Questions, comments, any thoughts? I know Leanne, I don't know if Leanne can hear me or not, but I know she was really hoping to plug heavy into the military market. And I think, you know, hopefully she takes a little bit away about making it a little bit more personal when she's talking to these buyers, especially military, because as soon as they learn to like connect with you and you're like, well, my husband works on the air station here in Beaufort. Cool. Like, what unit are you going to? They're like, oh my God, she speaks my lingo. And if you say like, are you doing a Diddy move or are you having DMO come? And they're like, oh my God, you know what a Diddy move is? It's like, psh, easy day. These buyers are never leaving me. Good luck trying to get them from me. You know what I mean? So learning all of knowing your market is key to securing that buyer.
Yeah, I mean, especially with all that military move and lingo, you know, where we're at in like Fort Liberty, you know, Fayetteville area, North Carolina. I mean, it's huge. I mean, we're one of the largest military bases in the country. So our PCS season is wild right now. And, you know, they flood the PCS into Fort Liberty Facebook pages. We need an agent. And then there's 400 real estate agents sending them a comment, here's me. Whereas I just step in and I just DM them like, hey, I see you're completely overwhelmed, and I may be like the 125th person to comment, but I don't even comment on the post. I just send them a DM, and she's like, yeah, I don't even know where to start. There's not even this many real estate agents in Alaska, you know, but so I scheduled a call with her through that. So sometimes it's like we turn away because when we see those posts that, well, they found somebody out of those 500 agents that commented on it, but really nobody's just reaching out to them personally and really relating to them. Like, wow, that must have been very overwhelming for you. How can I help in that process? So that's something I've seen a lot of traction on. And I think that kind of just goes for anybody. It doesn't even have to be military really, but you know, those posts where people just say like, hey, we need an agent, we're moving to the area, no matter which community you're in. That tends to be something that has really stuck for me lately.
Yeah. Actually, I would love, oh, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Oh, no. I was going to agree with Leanne. Absolutely, because I service for Fort Liberty also, and I send them a direct DM. Most of the time, I send them a video also that I already have prepared that already talks about me with a little blurb. Let them know, because if you can get that face to face and they can really see who you are, and like you said, it's more than just the military community, but when people can get face to face with you beforehand, and it's like you're doing something the other agents didn't do. And I think
Yeah.
I always say this, I always want to be the thumb in the room, which if you look at your hands, what's the most unique? The thumb. Everybody remembers the thumb. Why? Because it's the one that's most unique. And I want to be different and get in front of these clients.
Yeah. Leanne, I'm just going to piggyback off what he said. I was going to tell you that I challenge you to send a video when you're reaching out to these clients. And I challenge everybody that's on here today, when you have a new buyer lead, I don't care if you're at the gym, at the grocery store, the soccer field, whatever, laying in your bed, like maybe get out of your bed because that's kind of weird. But like, I really think if you just stop for a second and send them a video, no makeup, whatever you look like, I do it all the time. I'm like, hey, listen, Leanne, thank you so much for messaging me. I appreciate you so much. I'm out here at my kid's soccer game. We're almost done, but I wanted to let you know I'm so excited to help you come to the area. I'm going to talk to you in just a little bit about it. Here's my Calendly link if you want to go ahead and put something on the board. If not, I'm going to give you a call right back. That initial interaction, that capture right there, again, you're not just a person and a phone number to them. You became a friend, somebody that's really going to help them, that they can relate to. Leanne, if you stop and you say, hey, like you're PCSing here, great. Like, my husband's military, we've been stationed here for this long. Like, I'm happy to help you through your move. They're going to come back to you every time. So I challenge everybody, when you have a new buyer or a new lead, pop a video, say their name. Eric, you said you have a pre-recorded one. When you say people's names, I'm a communication major, so that they taught us that in college. Like, make sure you say their name because it means more. So I would challenge you all to do that. Chris, do you have a question over there? Let's see.
Just more of a little example. I'm thinking about a buyer that came to me through, I think it was Facebook ad or something. And actually his mom called me first, and then he wound up setting an appointment. But something I did with this buyer was, and it was him and his wife, and I think he had one little child, or maybe even two. Every time we met, I took him out for coffee after. So, okay, well, I really need to learn what you're liking and not liking. And it kind of helped them stay sticky. So it's just an idea that, we have to put a little extra effort in now. And I think that if we say, hey, we're going to meet up at the Starbucks, and then we'll go see that house, or we're going to meet up and on the corner, and whatever it may be, just to be able to get that conversation to where, because we all know if you've had a conversation, let's say in the dating game, I went on a couple dates with somebody, and it's like, okay, they know a lot about me now. Now you start all over. That's a pain, and nobody wants to. So the more information they're giving you, the better. So anyway, it's just an idea.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely love it. Anybody else got any questions for today while we popped on? Cool. If anybody ever wants to do any type of buyer role play or anything like that, like, you guys, I can find me on Facebook, like my information, Google me, whatever, Anna can share it, whoever. I'm always happy to run all of those scenarios with you, because you don't know what you don't know. But the quickest thing that you have to do in this industry is just remember to keep pivoting and gather as much information as you can, like Chris was just saying. So awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
Anna,
you guys
And
a ton.
and just one last thing too, Anna, before you guys go. Thank you, Stephanie. I learned a lot too. I like listening. And finding out more, but also, guys, I've been in the business since 2006. I've seen the business go up, down, all around. There will be changes. There always will be changes. So you have to understand. It's like the change is like like standing on the train track, right? Since I'm in the train, right? It's like standing on this train track. You can either get hit by the train, move over and let change pass you by, or jump on the train and move with it, because it's going to happen regardless. And I think the biggest thing about it is not to fear it, but to embrace it, because during this time when the markets were going down in our military markets, when we had the crash, was when I launched my independent company. And we actually had the most profitable time we've ever had in that a 3-year because market share shrinks, because agents got out of the business, and those of us who stayed in and changed with the business excelled us going forward. So just embrace what's going on now, and let's take control of the market.
Thank you.
All right, friends, we'll get this recording up so you can have it. And as always, we're always here. So next week, I think we're gonna do a similar conversation listing side. And then we've got some, the following week, we've got the Phone Warriors team coming on to talk about some scripting and conversion, high level seller follow-up. And the week after that, one of our great speakers from the regional rally is going to come and do some mindset training. So we've got a couple great weeks of content coming your way. So stay plugged in, stay tuned in, and we'll see y'all on next Wednesday morning. Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you, Eric. It was so fun to collaborate with both of you this morning.
Thank you.